Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our weekly BBIS story time. Now, you're probably thinking, why the huge jar of spaghetti? Why the big pan? Well, if your family is anything like mine, you've probably been eating quite a lot of pasta recently. And we all know what happens to pasta as it cooks. That's right, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And today's story is about a queen who had a problem when she cooked too much spaghetti. It's called the Queen's Spaghetti. Queen Nellie was a big, happy queen. She lived with her husband, King Jim, in an untidy castle on the edge of town. They hadn't got much money, but they did have a large garden, a small field, a wood with 9 trees, and a great many animals. One evening, Queen Nellie came indoors and said, "What shall I cook for supper tonight?" She had been working in the garden all day and she was very hungry. "I know," she said to herself. "I'll make spaghetti with a tomato sauce. King Jim does enjoy that." Now, King Jim was very good at sharing all the cooking and castle work, but Queen Nellie liked to get him a meal when he'd been out at work all day. To make some money, King Jim worked part-time at the Royal Mint. Queen Nellie put some water on to boil in a large pan. Because she was so hungry, she put in lots and lots of spaghetti. Then she began the sauce. She sang a little song as she worked. She chopped onions and tomatoes and garlic and fried them until they sizzled and fizzled, filling the kitchen with a lovely smell. But as the spaghetti cooked, it began to swell up, and soon the big saucepan was overflowing. "Oh dear," said the Queen, and she ran and fetched another saucepan. She put half the spaghetti into it, but still the spaghetti kept swelling up, and soon both saucepans were overflowing. "Oh dear," said Queen Nellie, and she ran and fetched 2 more saucepans. She put some spaghetti into each of them, but the spaghetti still kept swelling up, and soon all 4 saucepans were overflowing. "Oh dear," cried the Queen, and she ran and fetched 4 more saucepans. She put some spaghetti into each of them. But still the spaghetti kept swelling up, and soon all 8 saucepans were overflowing. "Oh dear," wailed Queen Nellie. "I haven't got any more saucepans." Luckily by then, the spaghetti was cooked. Queen Nellie looked around her kitchen. Spaghetti had wiggled out of the saucepans and slid down the cooker. Spaghetti had slithered and wiggled across the kitchen floor. Coils and twirls of spaghetti, twists and curls of spaghetti, everywhere spaghetti. "Would you believe it?" said the Queen. "I think I've cooked too much too much." She knew the king would be upset. If there was one thing King Jim disliked, it was waste. So Queen Nellie gave some of the spaghetti to her cat Binks to eat. "Come off it, Queen Nelma," said Binks as he tried to eat it. "Cats like fish, not string. Even a nice mouse would go down better than this lot." He ate a saucerful just to please the Queen, but there was still an awful lot left. Then the Queen called her dog Barker and gave him some of the spaghetti to eat. "Dogs like meat, your Madge," said Barker as he tried it. "Not hot wet worms. Even a nice bone that's been buried in the garden for a few months would do better than this lot." He ate a bowlful just to please the Queen, but there was still an awful lot left. So the Queen called the royal peacock Strutter and gave him some of the spaghetti to eat. "Peacocks like tasty insects, dear Highness," said Strutter, with a shudder. "Not heaps of squiggly wigglies. Even a few dry spiders would go down better than this lot." He picked at a few strands just to please the Queen, but there was still an awful lot left. The Queen looked at the clock. As quickly as she could, she stuffed most of the spaghetti back into the pans. Then she hurried to the back door, carried the pans outside, and emptied them on the grass. She called her hens and ducks. "Eat!" she commanded in her most regal voice. The hens and ducks were rather surprised. They had already had their dinner and were getting ready for bed. "What can it be?" quacked the ducks. "Let's try it and see," cackled the hens. So the hens and the ducks pecked and pulled and tugged and scratched at the spaghetti. Spaghetti wound round their legs. Spaghetti tied up their beaks. Sticky ropes of spaghetti, clingy strings of spaghetti, everywhere spaghetti. "Hurry up!" shouted Queen Nellie from the kitchen. "Get that mess cleared up!" So the hens and ducks clucked and snacked and gulped and quacked until they were so full of spaghetti they could hardly move. But there was still an awful lot of spaghetti left. Then Queen Nellie noticed her geese slap-dashing up the path to see what was going on. "Just in time," she said. "Come and finish this up." So the geese hissed and squabbled and honked and gobbled until they were so full they could hardly move. But still, there was an awful lot of spaghetti left. Queen Nellie felt desperate. Then she had a brainwave. She rushed down to the royal pigsty and let out all the pigs. The pigs were delighted. They wallowed and puffed and swallowed and stuffed and tucked in and sucked in delicious spaghetti as fast as they could. They grunted and snorted, they squealed and cavorted, they slurped and they burped, and they ate it all up. "What a delicious smell," said King Jim, as he hung up his hat and put on his indoor crown. "Spaghetti for supper," he continued, washing his hands. "My favourite, and your spaghetti is always so good, my dear. Yes, I work so hard making money all day that I am very hungry tonight." Queen Nellie passed the spaghetti round, adding some of the tasty tomato sauce and sprinkling of grated cheese on top. The spaghetti was good. The sauce was scrumptious. "I hope there's plenty more," said King Jim, passing his plate over. "I'm still quite hungry." But there wasn't any. There wasn't a scrap of spaghetti left anywhere. So the moral of this story, be careful next time you cook spaghetti that you don't end up like the Queen and cook too much. From all of us at BBIS, we wish you a restful Easter break, and we look forward to seeing you back online in 2 weeks' time. And in the meantime, please sign up and enjoy our Easter Wellbeing Camp.